Oh yeah, raise your hand. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Setting the scene. Degrowth Conference 2020, Oakland, California, in an elevator with
Kyorgos Gallus.
and
Schmeich Schmellenberger.
the elevator. It's not going.
I knew it. I should have taken the stairs.
This 100% nuclear-powered elevator should not be malfunctioning in this way. Is there an electricity blackout?
I even wonder why the dude just built such tall buildings in the first place. Makes no sense.
Well, actually, it does make sense. Building up means not spreading out. Tall buildings in densely packed cities leave more room out there for nature. It's humanity's enormous land use that decimates the ecosystems of the world.
Wait a second. Are you for real? You're just looking at the emerged part of the iceberg there. Let's have a proper look at your just tall building here. Where does the concrete come from? The glass, the steel, all the material and energy that was required to build this gigantic building. The reality is that this building and cities in general have a shadow footprint. Their existence depends on the extraction of resources from their peripheries.
And their peripheries.
If we factor that in, the footprint of the building is not so skinny anymore. Besides, it is the people living in those buildings that consume most of the resources. When rural farmers move to cities, they lose this connection with the environment they usually rely on, and that's when overconsumption really kicks in.
What Tim is doing now here is rendering visible the embodied or embedded energy, material, water, etc. that constitute this building. Its use, the users, and its maintenance. This is something that is often strategically ignored by the eco-modernists.
But these backwards rural tribes that rely directly on the environment for sustenance are precisely the ones who destroy it. A population of no more than 1 or 2 million North Americans hunted most of the continent's large mammals into extinction in the late Pleistocene, while burning and clearing forests across the continent in the process. Even today, people depend on firewood and charcoal for fuel, so they cut down and degrade the forest. People hunt bushmeat for food, and so they hunt local mammal species to extirpation. Wildlife harvesting is the most direct and often most severe way in which humans destroy nature by the large-scale killing of the subjects of conservation, wild animals.
All right. If I follow your argument there, primitive society should then collapse recurrently after destroying their environment. However, when we look at history, that societies that collapse are not the rural tribes you describe here. Those are usually the ones that show best resilience, actually. It is those that disconnect themselves from their environment that crash. What we can learn from the Romans and the Mayas is that intensification is more likely to lead to collapse rather than to sustainability.
It smells like some fucking Jared Diamond environmental determinism bullshit.
My other problem with your argument is that you're blaming the victims and not the perpetrators. Who are the most affected by environmental issues? People whose livelihood directly depend on the environment. The people you condescendingly call primitive. The injustice here is that those people are not the ones whose industrialization created climate change. You're making them pay the bill for a party they did not even attend.
Pretend you're a subsistence farmer. Do you have time to educate yourself about global environmental issues? Do you have the capital to invest in precision irrigation and fertilization technologies to farm eco-efficiently? Do you even care about efficient water use and limiting nutrient pollution? Or are you too busy trying to feed your poor, primitive family? It's only by becoming wealthy that we can afford the time and effort to care about the environment.
Do we really want to villainize those who have been subjected to institutional racism, to genocide, and to recurrent acts of slow and fast violence?
Okay, you want to play? Let's play. Pretend you're a subsistence farmer relying on ecosystem services to survive. Would you not be then more likely to put your time and effort in making sure this environment remains able to provide for you and your family? Poor people have the best incentive to save the environment. Their survival depends on it. And this is why in the majority of environmental conflicts, it is these people that are in the front line to find extractivist mega projects. Come to where people frack, build dams, and clear forests. The one most caring about the environment there are not rich Westerners, but local and most of the time poor people.
Here we see an avocation of the environmentalism of the poor. Martinez Allier, 2002. We should be careful not to romanticize the lives of the poor.
Yes. Yes, big modernization projects have a few local environmental impacts. But on the whole, they make society better off and they actually reduce environmental damage. Follow me. What if we plop a nuclear power plant down in your poor community? Instead of engaging in back-breaking labor to chop down a valuable forest ecosystem and then combust the fuel wood for domestic energy, heating and cooking, releasing harmful indoor air pollutants and greenhouse gases, which warm the climate, as we know, then they can have carbon-free electricity, nuclear electricity, pumped straight into their homes and jobs at the nuclear power plants. Jobs, I tell you. Communities climb what we eco-modernists like to call the technology ladder toward more highly engineered and eventually fully synthetic forms of production, getting wealthier and greener all the way up. Cities in eco-modernized countries have less polluted air than in unmodernized places in the world, and this technological progress is exactly why.
Wait, what the fuck? Did you just say cities in eco-modernized countries have less polluted air than in unmodernized places in the world, and this technological progress is exactly why? This is totally ahistorical and completely ignores the imperialism and colonialism that continues into the present. And also, what the fuck is the technological ladder?
Technology ladder.
My problem is that you seem to assume that all types of technological innovations can contribute to improving ecological sustainability. But what about all the innovations that do exactly the opposite? What about all the new technologies that allow us to locate new stocks of natural capital that were not previously detectable? What about hydraulic fracturing and all the other technologies that allow us to extract resources that were previously inaccessible? In reality, most technological innovations tends to make us better at what we do, exploiting nature at the detriment of vulnerable populations. Technical efficiency improvements have enabled affluent societies to grow consumption and production to such unsustainable levels. Your technology ladder is just going to make you fall from higher.
But this ever-increasing production and consumption has made us all better off. Fracking, for example. We get energy without using so much coal. Wealthier, more productive economies meet human needs better, and eventually, the demand for material goods saturates. People reach a point where they have enough material things, and then they commit more of their economic surplus to non-material things. Like better human health, greater human freedom, more human opportunity, arts, culture, and the conservation of nature. Some high-income countries are already reaching this peak in material consumption. Once the resource use of the whole world has risen to this point of saturation, we will witness the great reversal. Peak impact. After which, total human environmental impacts will decline thanks to increasing technological efficiency.
I was waiting for this one. Patiently. But now it is. The good old environmental Kuznets curve.
Here we go again with the fucking critique of the environmental Kuznets curve.
We grow, we grow, we grow, we grow, and magically, as we do so, we reduce our environmental impact. As much as I would like it to be true, it is not. And if you look at the data, you realize that no country in the world have ever achieved such a thing. And that's because of several reasons. The first one is the rebound effect.
Or the Jevons paradox.
Even though we gain in efficiency in relative terms, we tend to consume more, so it cancels the efficiency gains in absolute terms. So yes, your car is more fuel efficient, but you drive it twice more, so it doesn't matter. The second one is the export of emissions. Apparent decoupling in the north is just the result of outsourcing dirty production in the south. The decoupling is relative, not absolute. Your environmental Kuznets curve is a Loch Ness monster. We've heard of it, tourists are talking about it, but we've never found any evidence of it. It doesn't exist but in your mind. As for your peak impact, it's an even greater fantasy, and that's because economic growth can never satisfy the desire for positional goods. There is no such level after which you have enough. This level moves depending on the level of consumption of people around you. So you're all happy with your little iPhone 2, and then I get the iPhone 3, and you want the iPhone 3, and they get the iPhone 4, and we get the iPhone 4, and we compete iPhone 5, the Big 7, boom! So we use consumption in a battle for prestige, and this consumption war of all against all leads to more growth, more material impact, more problems.
More growth, more problems. Okay, let us assume that the peak impact decoupling arguments have some validity. Will we reach peak impact before surpassing non-reversible regime shifts in climate and biodiversity loss? Are we willing to enter into this race between peak impact and planetary boundaries? By the time the Kuznets curve levels off, if that ever happens at all, the world will be an inhospitable and unlivable place. I, for one, am not willing to take that gamble. Climate change, the sixth great extinction, ocean acidification, climate refugees, these are all devilishly wicked problems that are sticking with us. We must stay with the trouble.
Technology.
Reality.
Anthropism.
Growth.
Intensification.
Efficiency.
Innovation.
Reproductive labor.
Progress.
Sufficiency.
Again. My Tesla.
My tandem bike.
Fuck market-based solutions.
Yeah. Fuck market-based solutions.
Desalinization.
Water sovereignty.
Substitution.
Non-commensurability.
Nuclear fusion.
Decentralized renewable energy.
Nuclear fission.
Oh, decentralized renewable energy again.
All hail the great decoupling peak impact.
Yes, but relative and based on ecologically unequal exchange.
And hydrologically unequal exchange. Okay, now, break it up, guys. What do you really know about these issues? Who are you to even talk about this? On this side, we have a rich, white eco-modernist from the left coast of the United States of America. And on this side, we have a, rich, white décroissant from France. Fucking typical. So, how do we open this discussion up to the marginalized, the racialized, the southern, the gendered, the worker, and the campesino? Perhaps we might acknowledge that these groups are already having discussions of their own.
My favorite animal is a snail. My favorite animal is a snail. animal is a snail.
How many dogs?